Time is the most frequently used noun in the English language. This may surprise you, it surprised me too. But it makes sense, because if we think about it, time governs everything we do, and in modern society, we even think of it like a currency, something that we can spend, save, or waste. And yet, for something that feels so obvious, so universal, many of us rarely stop to question what it actually is. And for most of human history, this is exactly what happened. Time was this absolute, a single universal clock ticking away identically for everyone. Then, at the turn of the 20th century, Albert Einstein came along and showed us that our assumptions had been incorrect. Einstein showed that time is not fixed at all, but instead deeply intertwined with space, speed, and gravity. These ideas, which became known as the theory of relativity, told us that the weaker the gravitational field experienced by an object, the more quickly time would pass through it. And the faster an object traveled through space, the more slowly its time would run relative to an outside observer. Now, these ideas sound really abstract, but in fact, they have real and measurable consequences, which we can see today. For example, GPS satellite systems, which orbit high above the Earth at incredibly fast speeds, experiencing much weaker gravitational fields than we do. Without constant relativistic corrections, their internal clocks would accumulate errors of several kilometers a day, and so clearly we need to adjust for this. So there seems to be no single universal time. But if time isn't absolute, if it doesn't flow the same way everywhere, then what is it? Well, before modern physics, we had philosophers asking these very same questions. And one of the earliest recorded ideas comes from the ancient Greek philosopher, Heraclitus. Heraclitus famously described time as a river, claiming that just as you cannot step into the exact same part of a river twice because it's constantly flowing onwards, moments in time cannot be revisited. And this rather intuitive metaphor captures our experience of moments passing once, never to be seen again, but it doesn't quite explain how the past, present, and future all link together. And so, to address this and respond to Einstein's new theories, at the turn of the 20th century, modern philosophical debate was formalized into two main arguments: presentism and eternalism. The first, presentism, claims that only the present exists, the past no longer exists, and the future is yet to exist. And we can represent this with a single slice, a thin layer of the universe, which we call now. And this is a rather intuitive idea. It makes sense, and it leaves the future open, giving us a sense of free will. However, it conflicts with Einstein's theory of relativity, because if we have two observers moving relative to each other, they will disagree about which of them are actually experiencing the present. In other words, what they claim to be now is actually two different slices of space-time, and presentism must therefore provide a way to identify which of those is objectively real. Now, the opposing view, eternalism, claims that the past, present, and future are all equally real and exist within the structure of our universe. We experience time by moving through these slices, where each slice represents the entire three-dimensional universe, but at a particular point in time. Crucially, nothing is being created or destroyed. We simply just move sequentially through these slices. And eternalism fits well with modern physics, because if there's no universal present moment, it becomes difficult to argue that only one moment in time truly exists. And yet, despite what physics and philosophy tells us, this is not quite how time feels to us. Our brains don't measure time with a stopwatch. Instead, time is a collection of moments shaped by attention, emotion, memory. When something feels emotionally intense, our brains record it in more detail, making those moments in time feel longer in hindsight. When life becomes routine, fewer memories are formed and entire weeks can seem to vanish. But while our perception of time is biological, our concept of time, the idea that it is linear, measurable, and continuous, is actually largely cultural. And we know this because of the Amandawa people, an indigenous group who live in the Amazon rainforest. The Amandawa do not conceptualize time as an abstract or measurable dimension. This means in their language they wouldn't use terms such as being behind schedule or looking forward to the future. Instead, temporal ideas are organized around context and event-based markers. Life is organized around what happens, not when it happens on a universal timeline. And so the Amandawa's use of communication challenges our assumption that humans are intrinsically inclined to view time as something that naturally flows forwards and exists independently of events. They suggest that our idea of time is not perhaps biologically hardwired, but instead culturally constructed. So, what is time then? Well, from physics we know that time is relative. Philosophy questions if the past, present, and future even exist at all. And psychology shows us that our brains actively construct our experience of time. And together, these differing perspectives suggest there may not be a single universal idea of time that we all share. I mean, we can measure time with incredible precision, defining units in seconds, nanoseconds, even zeptoseconds. But as humans, we don't live in minutes and hours. We live in moments. Moments that are stretched by fear and compressed by joy, blurred by routine and sharpened by new experiences. And when we think about all these ways that time bends, physically, culturally, psychologically, we realize something important. Perhaps time itself is not what gives our lives meaning. Perhaps meaning lives in the moments themselves, and perhaps what matters is not how much time we have, but how we live in each moment. Thank you.